Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Now, France has laid a grand welcome to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He is the guest of honor for France's Bastille Day celebrations. Security has been beefed up in Paris amid fears of disruptions by race-related protesters. Now, after addressing the Indian diaspora on Thursday, a lot is lined up for the Indian Prime Minister. Now, this includes signing of some key agreements and attending the Bastille Day celebrations as New Delhi and Paris mark 25 years of partnership. On Thursday, President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Élysées Palace. Macron, along with his wife Brigitte, posed with Modi as the two leaders went on to attend a working dinner. Now, shortly after this, the Prime Minister was conferred with the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor. This is France's highest civilian and military honor. With this, he joins the elite list of leaders who have received the honor. Now, this includes former South African President Nelson Mandela, King Charles, former German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, as well as the former United Nations Secretary General Boutros Ghali, among others. Earlier, the French president had delivered an address for the Bastille Day military parade, during which he called India, and I'm quoting here, a giant in history. Now, the military parade will also see participation from India's Army, Navy, and Air Force. The parade is also set to show off 4 Rafale jets, 3 piloted by Indian Air Force officers and 1 by French Air Force pilot. This will be a prominent display ahead of the Rafale deal that is set to be signed in the bilateral visit.
India is a key partner. Prime Minister Modi's state visit and his participation alongside us in tomorrow's parade with the Indian Armed Forces speak volumes about our ability to dialogue, to shine and to move forward together.
Now, India has already given an initial approval to purchase an extra 26 Rafale jets for its Navy and 3 Scorpene-class submarines. Now, the total value of defense agreements between the two countries is estimated at over $13.3 billion. Now, Prime Minister Modi will be taking a guided tour of the iconic Louvre Museum along with Emmanuel Macron. India and France are seeking to deepen ties as Paris hopes to consolidate its network in the Indo-Pacific region. And now for more on this, we are being joined by our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal from Paris. Hello to you, Siddhant. We know that there is a focus on security this Bastille Day as the French protesters threaten disruptions. What are the latest details that you have for us?
Well, Alison, I'm standing right now at Élysées, where the Indian Prime Minister has just arrived. He is the guest of honor during this year's Bastille Day Parade, and of course, focus will be on in as Indian Prize Service contingent marches at Champs-Élysées. Them who were elated and enthusiastic, but on the ground, I can. That now focus is as to how India and France can work together at a time when there have been global changes and a very aggressive China as well. That is something that is dominating from the Indian side. But all in all, if we talk about the deliverables, defense remains a key outcome, a key focus from this visit. Also, when it comes to space as well, 3 pacts will be signed. Civil nuclear cooperation is something that can see some kind of announcements later in the day. There will be press statements by both the Indian Prime Minister and the French where, of course, there will be pacts signed. But all in all, focus during this year's parade is India, given that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the guest of honor.
Well, let me just tell you what the latest situation is right now. I'm at the Bastille.
Right, and Siddhant, we know that it's a busy couple of days for Prime Minister Modi, who will be sitting with the French President Emmanuel Macron, and the two are due to sign some key agreements, and of course Prime Minister Modi attending those Bastille Day celebrations. This as New Delhi and Paris mark 25 years of partnership. Take us through the significance of the partnership between France and India.
Well, Alison, the world has changed significantly in the last 25 years, but one thing has been stable is been growing in multiple ways, in leaps and bounds. It has been growing. Defense has been a key pillar of this relationship. And remember, in the last few years, this is the second time an Indian Prime Minister has been invited as the chief guest at the Bastille Day Parade. The last was in 2009, when the then Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was invited. This time, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is present, and of course, the Indian contingent will be shortly marching at Champs-Élysées, which is behind me. And we will see the Rafale fighter jets also taking part with the fly past as well. So a lot of pomp and show during this year's this visit of the Indian Prime Minister, but during this year's Bastille Day Parade as well, we have been talking about outcomes for last 24 hours, and we all know that focus will be on a roadmap as to how India and France take this relationship further and build on this relationship. Remember, France was one of the few countries, in fact, the only country after India did the Pokhran nuclear test, not to sanction India. For that, and how this relationship is almost without any irritants as well. France, of course, does not comes with baggages like America comes when it comes to human rights issues for India. And that, of course, is noticed in New Delhi as well. So, largely during this year's visit, the Bastille Day, we will see a symbolic celebration of India-France relationship.
Now, Siddhant, we know that French President has delivered the address for the Bastille Day military parade, and there are going to be the Rafale fighter jets from India that will be taking part in this parade. Take us through some of the details of the military parade that was Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Well, yes, Alison, you know, there is a long history of India-France defense relationship, but there has been a history of how the Indian troops played a key role when it comes to World War I here in France. There is a memorial as well for the Indian soldiers who valiantly fought France. The Indian Prime Minister visited that memorial way back in 2015. Now, during this year's Bastille Parade, as we have been talking about, there are members of the Indian contingent from the Army, from the Air Force, from the Navy. In fact, the Indian Navy has sent INS Chennai as one of its assets, as a Navy ship which has come to a port where, of course, the Indian ambassador will also be going. That shows that how there is an increased engagement at the armed forces level, and there is a remembrance as well, the historical part of it. In fact, as we were speaking to many of the troops earlier today, many of them talked about that historical connect. They were aware of that historical connect. In fact, Punjab Regiment, which was a regiment that played a key role during World War I, is going to march here at the Bastille Day Parade a short while from now. So that is something that hasn't lost in its significance here in Paris.
Siddhant, stay with me as we take a look at the live visuals coming in of Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Bastille Day celebrations. Now, President Emmanuel Macron had conferred Prime Minister Modi with the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor, which is France's highest civilian and military honor. Now, India and France are seeking to deepen ties as Paris hopes to consolidate its network in the Indo-Pacific region. Siddhant, let's take a look at some of the expected joint plans for ensuring stability in the region. Now, coming back to you, Siddhant, India and France are seeking to deepen ties with this meeting as Paris is hoping to consolidate its network in the Indo-Pacific region. What role will India be expected to play here?
So there are two aspects to your question. I'll start with the people-to-people relationship. There are a number of Indians here in France, number of French citizens with Indian origin, many of them having their origin from Puducherry, which was under the French colonial rule. But largely, if we talk about this people-to-people relationship, we saw a kind of a roadmap being laid by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he addressed the members of the Indian diaspora yesterday. The announcements being made, including opening of a consulate, the OIC card for the French citizens in Reunion Island, and also the UPI as well. That is a big boost for the Indian tourists coming to France. Now, the second aspect is Indo-Pacific. Now, France is a resident power in the Indo-Pacific. It has geographical entities there, and that makes it an important partner for India in the Indo-Pacific. In fact, it was one of the first European countries to come out with the Indo-Pacific strategy, and it has been regularly engaging with the Indian side as well. So there have been constant engagement, and India sees as an important partner France in Europe, and France sees India as an important partner. And there is a backdrop to it, a rise of a very aggressive China. This is something that hasn't lost to anyone, the Chinese aggressive actions. In fact, the French ambassador spoke to WION before this visit and took questions also on the Chinese aggressive actions. And also remember that French ambassador has been to Arunachal Pradesh, a region where the Chinese have been causing a lot of issues, also trying to stake claim as well. So this is something that is part of ongoing conversations, and we do expect a lot of convergences between India and France, terming it that France is India's new best friend. And many also have been saying that France is gradually as India's key partner, because first, in terms of defense, it has been supporting India in several ways, and also when it comes to Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is Make in India project as well. Secondly, when it comes to the issue of counter-terrorism, and of course dealing with the Pakistanis and at the United Nations Security. Remember, when it comes to United one thing I can point out, has been proposing names of terrorists for listing, and France has another thing about the United Nations Security that India has been calling forms of the United Nations Security Council, something that back.
Right, and Siddhant, these Bastille Day celebrations come at a time following the violent protests that erupted after the death of a teenager in France. What kind of security arrangements are in place that will be taking prominence during these celebrations?
We are right now at a very close quarter to the leadership. We went through all the security checkup. Not feel at any point that there is a concern, but of course, security is beefed up at a time when France did saw almost 2 weeks ago, and there is of course those riots as well. In fact, have come to witness the members of the Indian troops as well.
कोई फॉरेन में सबसे ज्यादा फ्रांस और न केवल मिलिट्री में बल्कि